Well, it's here again, Constitutional Crisis Channel. Glad to have a chance to visit with you again. And first off, I want to thank all my recent subscribers, and I've had several, and I want to thank you for that. And you can contact me. We'll put the email address below. It's ccaspari@live.com. So I appreciate you doing that, and I will respond to questions and things and requests for information. So please feel free to do that. Now, current events. And here we go. Is it ever going to stop in Charlottesville? My goodness. And what you have to realize about this is that the two sides, quote unquote, are really on the same side. And I believe, even if I don't have empirical proof, that they're financed by the same people, those that are very near the environs of 120 Broadway, New York, New York. The Wall Street banksters. And what they're trying to do here is in effect erase the war between the states from the history books. They don't want people even thinking about that or the reasons for it. And frankly, I didn't get taught a hell of a lot myself 50 years ago when I was in school. Nowadays, the next generation will be lucky to maybe have a page and a half on the whole thing with no explanation of what the hell went on there. And the reason for it is the banksters know as well as I do the issues that were involved there, which are still active and we're ready to present them today, especially in criminal courts. This is what's going to beat them. And it's why I raised without hesitation and without remorse white supremacist arguments. This is what's happened, and those of you that have been watching my videos and have my materials know exactly. I don't say it if I can't prove it. These are the guilty parties. They want both sides to keep going at each other. And the members of Congress, by the way, in the first debates on the first Civil Rights Act of 1866, some of the people against it made the comments that you're just setting up a freedman's bureau here with no limit in time, and what you're going to have is an agency that, the best thing for them is that the whites and the blacks continue to go after each other, and you have this kind of interchange going on, because if the whites and blacks work together, the reason for existence of the Freedmen's Bureau and today the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice would disappear. That's why they want to keep this stuff going, and that's why both sides need to unite against a common enemy. When that starts to happen and people understand the reasons for it, that's when we start making progress and we get these bastards out of here and reduce the federal government back to the proper perspective like it should have had with the original intent of the framers. That's what I strive so hard to do. I'm 24/7 here trying to do this, and I made some pretty good progress. In fact, the next video on the Merced case, you're going to hear a lot about that, and now we have a really good chance to get a substantive win there. But I digress, going back to the Charlottesville stuff, and now, of course, there's a flaming movement afoot to take down every statue of a Confederate general in sight. Now when I was growing up, by the way, and I spent a lot of time growing up in Virginia, not far from Charlottesville, if that would have happened 50 years ago, you would have had a major military revolt in the state of Virginia because of it, and probably other southern states too. It just wouldn't have happened. And these were honorable men, by the way. Robert E. Lee, for crying out loud. Was one of the most honorable and one of the best generals too, that on either side of the war between the states. Thomas Jonathan Stonewall Jackson, to whom I'm kind of a shirt-tail relative. I won't go into that right now, but we had the Troy Jackson reunions back when I was growing up in Virginia, and people still remembered the heritage there, and they knew quite a bit about the events that happened, which was then 100 years ago. And they knew some of the reasons for it, which has all been lost today. You don't read any of this now. Because the real deal here is slavery was an issue, but it wasn't anywhere close to the main issue. When you realize, for example, that the real hidden agenda of the 14th War Amendment was to make citizens out of corporations, that has made the most profound change in our government that I think has ever happened. But nobody who ratified the amendment knew about it. My goodness, and you look at the first 700 cases they went to the Supreme Court under the 14th Amendment, how many of them involved the rights of freedmen? As I've said before in early videos, 8. 1%. The rest of it was corporations. What does that tell you? about the real agenda of that amendment, even if it was otherwise properly ratified. And we won't go into that in this video, but trust me, it wasn't, and that's just one of the reasons for it. So the other thing that happens is that with this Freedmen's Bureau, and again this was recognized with the first Civil Rights Act prior to this amendment, was you were in effect creating an agency that would be backed by the military of the United States. That can be defined, as I do, as federal, regional, martial law rule, and it was to exist in times of peace with no known state of rebellion or invasion. That's the real problem with all of this. The federal government couldn't have done that any other way, and that's why the early Civil Rights Acts didn't do as well as they might. It took the 14th War Amendment to come in there with Section 5, giving Congress to do whatever it damn well pleased to do all this stuff. Now you start understanding reasons like this, and you may also understand, well, what's going on now, and everybody wants to take down every Confederate statue in sight. Well, the same argument could be made, as far as I'm personally concerned, for doing the same thing with civil rights leaders. And that includes Martin Luther King. And I don't know whether he knew or didn't know any of the things I've been saying here, but it isn't relevant. If you openly advocate what is in effect treason to the Constitution and trying to overthrow the government of the United States, that isn't the person you should probably want to put up a statue to anywhere, with the possible exception of Beijing or Moscow. So those using that same reasoning to try to take our statues down, you better think about what you're saying, because you might get what you ask for. It's my mission in life to take down the 14th Amendment and civil rights. Not because, some of these things aren't needed, but the manner in which they're done is plainly in violation of all 6 articles of the Constitution. That's what has to stop. Once we do that, recognize the common enemy, and take action against them, which is what my lifelong agenda is to do now, that's what takes care of business. It won't be perfect, no question about it, but we get back to original intent, and we can then change the rules in whatever way we want, consistent with Article 5 of the Constitution, not in contravention of it. That's when we start to lower the boom on the government, assert the power that we have and that the Constitution gave us, and are able to take care of business, get government back to where it should be, and have a more perfect union. Thank you.